welcome to the Great Big Movie Show. I'm your host, Eric. Tonight we're going to be talking about The General, a silent picture from 1926, directed by Clyde Buckman and Buster Keaton, starring Buster Keaton as a Civil War railroad engineer whose train is stolen and who has to get it back. I'm joined tonight by my friends Joe and Bart. Guys, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. So this is a movie that we watched a couple months ago in class here at North Metro TV. And first off, it's a silent movie. Your first silent movie?
Yes, mine.
Yeah.
No, I've watched quite a few silent movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, so Bart, this was your first one. How did it live up? Like, how did you think it was going to be? How was it?
Over the years, I've seen clips of silent movies, but I've never seen a whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was concerned going in and wouldn't hold my interest.
Mm-hmm. That'd be boring.
Yeah, and it would be boring, and it was the total opposite of that.
Yeah.
It was very funny. It held my interest, and I was quite surprised that it did, especially because, if I remember correctly, it was almost a couple hours long, or an hour 45 long,
About an hour
or
and a
something
half,
like that.
somewhere around there.
A lot longer than I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
too, but it went by really fast.
Yeah. Did it make you want to check out more silent movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially with Buster Keaton. I really liked Buster Keaton.
Joe, and so you've seen silent movies before, and I feel like you said you've seen this one before.
I've seen portions of it. This was the first time I've watched it in its entirety.
Okay, and what did you think of it?
Well, I really liked it. A lot of the, I liked that Buster Keaton did all of his own stunts. And as we watched the movie, some of the stuff he did was just fantastic.
Let's talk about. I want to talk about Keaton, and obviously you're both very enthusiastic about him. So let's talk about those stunts. What were some of the stunts that he performed in the movie that really caught your eye?
Well, I think the one that that really caught my eye and I've thought about it a lot is he was riding on the front of the train on the cow catcher of it, and has a piece of wood in his hand and throws it, and I mean it was just crazy the way he threw it. It hit the ground. It did some moves. He did some moves, and he didn't get killed.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's out on the car catcher.
Right.
He's got a big railroad tie in his arm because the bad guys have been laying railroad ties across the train tracks trying to derail him. And so he's flipping them off like he's playing tiddlywinks. That was incredibly dangerous because, I mean, this real trains, real railroad ties.
Yep, I like I say, when I watched that, I was just in amazement that he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something else.
Yeah. Bart, anything that stood out for you?
Well, that scene is the one that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
But the one that really amazed me, and he did it several times in the movie, is he went from the engine, crawled across or walked across, ran across the next
coal
segment
tender
of the train with the coal catcher with the
Yeah.
wood in it, and the train is moving, and he makes it look easy, and then he jumps into the other car behind it. And he did that several times in the movie, and I was amazed every time he did that because I know how fast trains move down the tracks. It's hard enough to stand up, let alone do that.
Well, I remember we talked about, after watching the movie, there's one part in particular where he's on so he's like 3 cars back, and he runs like full tilt from that car to the coal tender and then jumps into the engine, and you can see his head just misses this roof of the train there where the engine is.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of times when he could have been hurt or killed making this movie. There's that shot where I don't know what it's called, but that part on the train wheels where there's that bar that connects them and moves up and down, right?
Yeah.
There's that scene where he's sitting on it, just sitting there when it starts moving and moving around. How easy would it be for his shirt to get caught into the wheel and no more movie, right?
Fall off, get hurt.
Yeah,
But he makes those things look easy.
He does. He makes them look fantastically easy.
Yeah, his athletic ability was just great, and like I say, like when you mentioned that, I mean, just the sheer luck that nobody was destroyed by the train or anything else is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, and do you guys remember? And so this is less a Keaton stunt, like one that he was a part of, than one he choreographed. Remember what was the climax of the movie, right? So they're the North and the South are kind of coming head to head across that river. They're driving the train. The North, I guess, has the train. They're driving across the bridge. Joe, you look like you know what I'm talking about.
When they blew up the bridge and drove and ran the train right into the gully, and I think if I'm not wrong, you mentioned it before, that actually stayed in place for like 70 or 80 years after the movie was made, and it was actually a historic site for a while.
Not quite, like about 20 years, I think. So
Okay.
I think what did it in was scrap metal drives in the Second World War, right?
Okay.
But yeah, but you're right. I mean, it was left there because it was a full-sized train. It wasn't a model work. Obviously it wasn't CGI, but it wasn't a model or anything. They actually drove a train out onto a bridge, blew up the bridge, and crashed the train into a ravine. They just don't do that kind of thing.
It was one shot, one take only.
Yeah.
Get it right, or that was it. Yeah.
You can imagine how much trouble the guy would have been in if he had forgotten to start turning the camera.
Wait, where's the film?
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah.
And the expense involved with doing that
Mm-hmm.
back then would have been tremendous.
Oh, it was an incredibly expensive film to make, and that's part of the reason why, when it came out, it was a failure. I think we talked about this, that it was not a critical success, and it did not make back its budget, I don't think, because it did cost a tremendous amount of money. And even though it's commonly considered one of the finest comedy films and one of the finest films of any sort ever made today, at the time, not a success. But let's get back to talking about Keaton. So stunts are something that defines him. Is there anything else that defines him as far as a performer?
Well, I think the facial expressions, the deadpan looks, the way he can show you by facial expressions how he's feeling about things or what he's thinking. It's very apparent in the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think very many actors or actresses can do that today. You know, first off, I don't think they know how, or they don't have to.
Right.
But he, again, made it look natural.
Yeah.
It didn't look like he was working at it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's particularly remarkable when we remember again that this was a silent movie, and especially I'm going to direct this at you, Bart, because so in your head when you think about a silent movie, right, especially before seeing this one, what do you think the acting style is going to be like?
Very kind of basic and somewhat poor, and you'd have to read the little things in between to know what's
Right.
going on, but you didn't.
Right, but also, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You knew what was going on, and you could pay attention and figure out what was going on because of the facial expressions, the arm movements, the way they looked at each other. They didn't really have to say anything.
No, they didn't. And at the same time, like there was definitely a stereotype after the silent movies went out of vogue of, well, the acting is very big and corny and and stuff like that. And Keaton's the exact opposite of that.
Right.
That's very restrained and very restricted.
Yeah, he was just absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. Now, what did you guys think about the music in this movie? Because it was a silent movie, but there was a music track with it. How did that help the movie?
I think it helps keep your interest and flows, helps the movie flow a little bit because you're not hearing nothing. We're so used to hearing things today in today's movies and television and everything that goes on, that silence, total silence, would be somewhat unique for us. So I think that helps keep your interest and have you pay attention to the movie. And also, the way they did it, in suspenseful parts of the movie, the music was somewhat suspenseful, and it followed that way too. So.
Joe?
Yep, I totally agree, and the music can, without you knowing it, pick you up or make you watch something more intently. The one that always kind of gets me, it was a comedy movie, was Jaws. You know, every time I watched Jaws, or the first time I watched Jaws, when I heard the dun dun dun, uh-oh.
Yeah.
You know, and much with this movie, the music really let you know what was going to come, and to start being aware that maybe a bigger piece was coming in or something.
And I think that's a real benefit to what we had with the copy of the General that we watched, where we were able to watch it with a score that was composed specifically for the movie, that was composed somewhat recently. One of the problems with watching silent movies, and one of the reasons why I think it gets the bad reputation that it does, is because a lot of times they'll just throw any old piece of like classical music along with it. The General's a movie that's in the public domain. You can watch it on YouTube or on the Internet Archive really easily, but it's usually paired up with they'll just line up 4 or 5 classical songs in a row, let them go their whole length, and there's no time or attention paid into having it make those ups and downs and things. And I think that that's something that people forget too, is that when these movies first came out, they were usually accompanied by scores that were sent by the studio, or failing that, there were guys who that was their whole job, was to play the piano or the organ along with the movie, and and knew how to kind of change their playing to accommodate what was going on the screen.
It was, very, I thought it was a unique experience for me, because like I said, I've never watched a full one
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
And I'd do it again in a minute.
Awesome. Well, I'm
Yeah.
thrilled. So let's see, Joe, favorite part of the movie?
2 parts maybe.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Okay.
Okay.
Probably the first part when he was trying to enlist in the Army and watching the other gentleman making it and him not making it, and how he really used his body and his physical attributes to show the frustration, and then trying to figure out a way in. I mean, he literally told the story without words, of course,
Yeah, yeah.
silent. And then the cow catcher scene, the train blowing up was good, but the cow catcher scene when he did that, I mean, it was just amazed me. And running across the trains. Okay, 3. Okay, 3.
Bart, is there anything left for you?
Yeah, the one thing that stands out in the movie for me is when he goes into Annabelle's house the first time and the boys follow him in. He didn't realize that the boys followed him in
Little
until he
kids.
sat down. And then he got up, put his hat on, opened up the door like he was going out, and the boys walked out, and then he closed the door behind him. I just laughed. I thought that was just a scream.
Yeah.
And he made it look like he was going to lead them out, but
Yeah.
he didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a terrific movie, and I really hope that people take the opportunity to check it out and enjoy it like we enjoyed it.
It was fun. I liked it.
If they haven't seen it, see it.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me tonight for a Great Big Movie Show.
Our pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's the Great Big Movie Show. We'll be back next month with an all-new episode. The Great Big Movie Show, as always, features a crew of people made up of students taking our free monthly How to Make a TV Show class. So I want to thank John Paul and Sam and Dusty and Dave for being the crew on this episode. If you would like to take that or any of our other free TV production classes, you can contact me at 763-231-2803 or Eric at northmetrotv.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.